but I'm just flying through space, whatever you want to call it. Next thing I know, I'm on this ship with a dozen gray aliens who are in a circle, right? And as I look closer, they're in a circle, but they're over this square table that looks like it's clear, like a clear table. And it looks at first like it's empty. But as I get closer, I realize that they're remote viewing like a town in the United States. And as I look closer again, their eyes are important to this process for whatever reason. They're following these people, and the gray alien next to them picked up the person from their field of vision. So they needed to do it as a group somehow. Maybe it was like a chorus. It made it stronger. It was like a process. And I don't know if these beings are servers. I don't know if they're humanoids. I don't know if they're half, I don't know what they are, half organic and half not. What was wild about that is that I'm looking at I'm so curious about it. Then two of the gray aliens looked at me and they started coming towards me. And I don't even know what I look like in the holographic form, right? I don't know what they're actually seeing, but I was so scared I jumped out of it. My first time that I stumbled upon gray aliens doing something like you could think that we could learn from. If our little eyes can do, a tenth of what their big eyes can do, maybe there's something there.
Today, my guest is Tom Matt. Tom, welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
I've been listening to some of your interviews this morning and the work that you're bringing to the table, and I already know this is going to be a great talk. One of the reasons I know is because the fact that you are a student, and I can hear in your voice that you're trying to get answers. You've experienced some things and you're bringing that to the table. And the beautiful thing is you're asking questions. One of my teachers said that you can't really trust the people who come with all the answers and they know it all, but you can trust the people who are showing up asking questions. The people who claim to have the truth. Don't ever trust those people, but the people who are seeking and searching after the truth, you could put some stock in that. So I know this is going to be a fun talk.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And that is absolutely true. My origin story, for lack of another word, happened a dozen years ago. And while I've got some answers in the last 12 years, every answer leads to more questions, me wanting to find out additional things. So yeah, do you want me to tell a little bit of my backstory? How do you want to start? Well, actually, this is you. What do you think?
I mean, shoot. Yeah, I think it'd be good to kind of set it up from the beginning, because, a lot of people are experiencing that right now. So to kind of show where you came from, to show where you are now, definitely be a great way to start.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So the reason I'm here, as you and I know, is that I have this ability to see these holographic images that are everywhere around all of us. For whatever reason, my brain has evolved or something has opened up for an ability to let me literally turn my attention. I can soften my eyes and I can focus and I see these holographic images. Not only can I see them, I can interact with them. Not only that, but I went to the IONS Institute in California and they hooked me up with an EEG machine and we measured the brain waves. So there's a peer-reviewed study out there showing this is not just an internal phenomenon, something outside of me is happening. We'll come back to that in a minute. What happened though, how I got this is about a dozen years ago. So I'm 11 years in recovery. So I'm recovering. I did a bunch of drugs 11 years ago. And when I did, actually, I relapsed. I had 5 years sober, right? So I'm in my mid-40s, 5 years later, I pick up again, late 40s, successful business guy in Atlanta. I have an advertising agency. This time when I picked up, something shifted in my brain. Something changed in my brain. I started to have a thought. That thought would turn into a belief. And no matter how ridiculous or bizarre that belief is, I would believe it to be true, and then I would act on it. It got so bad that I believed my business was a front for another business. I believed my kids were aliens, and I believed it so much. This is funny, when you talk about people believing things, you're like, well, how do you believe it? I believed it so much, I walked out on my family, I walked out on my wife, I walked out on a thriving business. Right? So I emptied my bank account and I spent the next 6 months just flying around the globe looking for answers because something was wrong and I didn't trust anybody. There's a huge paranoia, and that is associated with cocaine. So that's not too unusual. And to be clear, again, I was a recovering addict before. So this time when I picked up, something just shifted. Something broke, right? Something got in, or something, it was a complete collapse. Well, 6 months later, and I wrote a book about this, by the way. It's called Jesus Goes to Hollywood, A Memoir of Madness. We'll talk about that title in a minute because I think it's important. And I don't usually talk about that on these podcasts, but for this show, I think it makes a lot of sense. Jesus Goes to Hollywood, A Memoir of Madness. And so I wrote about this. I published it in 2020, right in the middle of the COVID pandemic. So I tell this story. The first 2/3 is what happened. And the last third is about when I started getting clean and sober. Something happened to my brain, again, to see these holographic images and to interact with them. So I was like, listen, if I can do this extraordinary thing and everyone knows I was psychotic and a drug addict, I have to give up my addiction. There's nobody going to take me serious if I'm still addicted and I'm claiming all these things. So I gave it up. But to be clear, I wanted to give it up. You know what I mean? I was at the end of my rope. Yeah, I was at the bottom, with the addiction, you're at the bottom. I wanted to get back with my family. I knew something was wrong with me. So over the years, we did a lot of healing, and the family part of it, success, great. Everyone's back together. The family, my kids love me. It's wonderful. That aside, that's not an aside. That's important. I still wanted to find out what these images were because they were extraordinary. So that's what I've done the last dozen years. And the funny thing is I stayed away from the new age stuff. I stayed away from ufology. I stayed away, maybe say the spiritual side. I wanted to be taken serious by academic institutions like MIT, Harvard. Anybody had a neuroscience program, I was like, listen, you need to get me in the lab. Something extraordinary is happening to my brain. And I can do it on demand. I don't have to wait for it. I don't have to get a certain vibe. And I know that we can measure something, whether it's in an fMRI or an EEG. Finally happened with ions. So that's where we are now, and that's the backstory.
So this excess of drug use ended up in some type of mental psychosis, some type of schizophrenia, where you're believing anything that you're told 100%, trying to make sense of reality. Images are coming to you. I'm assuming from experience that many of the images maybe that you were seeing at the time, were they unpleasant? Were they were they evil images like during that time of the psychosis?
So no, that's a great question. It's funny too, because in my book, there were literally two separate instances. Now I was on drugs on both of them. So let's be clear about that. I was psychotic, I was on drugs, but I was run out of a hotel room. I went to a place called, they sell Christian jewelry, James Avery, right? I happened to go to James Avery. I was beginning of the psychosis. I was buying some jewelry, all these crosses and stuff. I went back to my hotel room. I did a bunch of drugs. By the time, and they actually had some posters, bizarrely enough, from a jewelry store. They had these posters. Maybe they were advertising some of the things they were selling. But by the end of the night, I had put these posters all over the wall because I thought demons were trying to get me. All these Christian posters, I put all these crosses on, and I ran out of that hotel room. I took everything, all this gold jewelry, and I threw it in a dumpster, right? Literally thousands of dollars worth of gold. The crazy part about that story is and I threw my wallet away because I thought it was possessed. Right? The craziest part about that story is the decency of the guy that picked up the garbage that day. He happened to see my wallet when he dumped it in the back, and he brought all this stuff to my wife. He said, I don't know why this is here, but this is important to you. I mean, that to me was like one of those spiritual moments from another person getting involved. It happened again when I was at a hotel in California, where I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought I was turning into a demon. And again, I completely left all my stuff and I left it in the hotel. They put that in storage. So there were two times where I thought something was going on with my mind. One, I was being chased out by demons. The second time, I thought I was turning into a demon. Now, this has not happened since I've gotten clean and sober. I want to be clear about that. That said, and we can definitely take a deep dive into this, I've seen many types of spiritual, alien, any kind of beings in the holographic form. Some of them are scary and some of them are less so. And I will tell you one other anecdote about why the book is called Jesus Goes to Hollywood. when I during the when the time I had the psychosis, I even back then I was like, it was in March. I said I have to get clean and sober, so I checked myself into a Crossroads Treatment Center, right, which is in Antigua. It's started by Eric Clapton, like the year 2000, I think. So I check in there, and I'm clean and sober because obviously you can't do drugs there. But there was a moment I knew I was still having, but I didn't know it. There were still psychotic thoughts. I had this fruit cup drink right at the cafeteria. I walked outside and I spilt this on the rocks and some of it got on my pants. I also had a Bible in my other hand, right? I opened up the Bible passage and the Bible said something. This is paraphrasing. So some of your readers may or listeners may know this better, but said something about, and the blood spilled and splashed upon his pants. And I was like, oh, that's it. I'm Jesus. It was clearly a psychotic moment, but when you're in that state, so there was like a couple of days where I literally thought I was Jesus because of all these synchronistic moments. That was one in a
Yeah.
series of um, that's by the way, that's a very high bar. You do not want to be Jesus because that's a very high bar to keep. So after a while, the idea faded away and my brain got healthier. And this filter, I call it a filter. It started to mend or started to get back in place. And I want to say two things too, because I'm sure somebody's thinking, did you have, that's my computer does this. Did you have, I did 2 MRIs, right? There's no brain damage, there's no lesions, there's no tumors, and there's no damage from drug use. So we know there's nothing wrong with my brain, nothing neurologically, nothing pathological is wrong with me. I've just developed this amazing ability. And the scientists, from a clinical perspective, their only answer is something must have been rewired in your brain to give you this ability. Now that's nice, but that's really not helpful, is it? I mean, if you looked over here and you saw a holographic image of anything, you would want more answers than that. And that's to your point. That has been the mission I've been on the last dozen years, trying to get answers.
Mm. Well, I think we're on a similar mission. And probably a lot of people listening. I get a lot of messages. Um, and I'm empathetic towards them because a lot of them are just what you said. Hey, I'm Jesus. Hey, I am, and the Archangel Michael sent here for a mission. I get it a lot, and it's the strange thing about it is that it seems to be increasing post COVID and post like going through these traumatic experiences. People push to a breaking point of reality of what they thought was solid, as far as how life works. And we're trying not to think about death. Like we're here trying to push like the spirit world and those things that are coming, right? Death, it's but we're trying to occupy our time and our mind with other things that so we don't have to think about it. And we've been forced to look at it and think about those things. So people are asking deeper questions, looking into near-death experiences, what happens when we die, all of these things. And so it's pushing people to this kind of breaking point, if you will. And so I'm getting a lot of those messages that are psychosis that people are going through. I always tell people to prove it, like, hey, I'm Jesus, or I can do this and travel to these realms and all this kind of stuff. Okay, like prove it. Like, hey, so people are writing me, tell me to ask them questions. They know everything in the world. Ask them a question. Okay, what was my father's brother's name? Just something right off the cusp that should be fairly easy, and they can't. So it's this thing of like this narrative scenario that is, like you said, 1,000% real to them, but the outside doesn't look like the inside. So if this is real, if you are, how do we get the outside to look like the inside, especially where little things are coming up that stood out to you because it's a part of your story that all of these grandiose ideas are happening, cool stuff, but now I'm homeless and I've left my family. Like and that's one that happens with a lot of people experiencing the Messiah complex. The
Yeah.
it happens a lot. I have friends doing it, um, a lot of stuff. So I want to be able to like share your story, share my story, and also help these people for sure, but help ourselves figure out what's going on, obviously on a larger scale. It's not just you. It's not just me. There's so many people, and I think the number is increasing, who are going through this stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Everything you said makes sense. You covered a lot of things. Let me take them one at a time. The ones uh, let me take them one at a time. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is the thought that people believe are getting messages. So that tells me that, I mean, again, I've thought about this a lot like you have, Derek. I've thought about this a lot. It's like, why would I believe something so ridiculous? And then the idea is like, well, where do thoughts come from? So while I don't believe those things anymore, it made me think, okay, everyone talks about you're not your thoughts, right? But we still do not know where thoughts come from. So the question is, maybe, even though I don't think people are the Messiah or Archangel Michael, maybe we need to start looking about where things are coming into our brains, and maybe they're on a level that is below, or like, let's call it unconscious or subconscious. Maybe we should start paying attention to that and wondering where these things are coming from, because these ideas are not coming out of thin air, but yet they are coming out of thin air, right? So like something is happening. We're turning into a frequency where we can pick it up. So that's my first thing. So I think that speaks to um doing more research on where these ideas are coming from, because if you go to a traditional therapist, they'll try to medicate you and say don't listen to those voices. Now that's good, you don't want to think these things, especially if you end up homeless, but it's only part of the story, right? It's only part of the symptom. And why do we have all this? Why do people need to think that? What is missing from our lives, or we need to think that? There's something missing. And if you go to if you go to AA meetings, it'll tell you to do service work and stuff like that. And that's really great stuff too. But I think there's another piece as well. And I think to your point, we are approaching something, right? Every time just like you, every time I get on a podcast like that, somebody reaches out to me and says, wow, I can do something like you can. And you know what? The number one, through every thread of every story, trauma. Every single person has some kind of trauma associated with it, whether it's childhood, whether it's addiction, whether it's family trauma, something. They all have. And then it gets worse, because for whatever reason, because people don't know what to do with this. It is an extraordinary thing. And if you go to traditional medical outlets, they're going to, like I said, medicate you, or they're going to say bipolar, schizophrenia. Now, obviously, those things are out there and people need to take care of those. But there's something else happening with our world, our environment. If you want to say a veil is being lifted so more people can see it, I'm okay with that. I think we're approaching something. I think our environment is changing. I don't care. Well, I mean, I do, obviously, whether it's climate change, something is happening where more people are plugged into this hidden biosphere, a hidden biosphere, an invisible biosphere, but it's not going to stay hidden or invisible for long. We're being connected to it. Now, I know this from a visual perspective because I can see more than other people can see. There's a word that I learned a dozen years ago called Umwelt. It's spelled Umwelt. I think it's pronounced Umwelt. It's a German word. It's a way a biological organism moves through the environment. Now, you and I are humans. We move through Earth differently than, say, a worm, right? Because we have more senses. We all occupy Earth, but a worm has different senses and sees a lot less than we do. I'm starting to believe, and I have for a while now, that there are other creatures and beings here that we can't see because our senses can't tune into them. I say this because I see them. I see them holographically. So I think more and more people are seeing more, whether you want to call it an evolution, mutation, I don't know, but I know I'm hearing from people all over the place. And yeah. So whether they're living or you want to call them living, that's discussion for science at another time. But for this conversation, it is definitely an interesting piece that is part of what I want to get answers for.
Yeah. A couple of the places that I definitely want to go with you is talking about being able to see this stuff and then manifest it, and then it actually becoming the reality. As far as like, hey, I'm a millionaire. Okay, like in the spirit world or in your imagination, like how do you manifest $1 million, right? Obviously, there's a process to do it. Anyone can do it, right? If they stuck to it and got a game plan. But these visions and these things that are coming to people, because we are antennas, we are receivers. For what though? That's what we're exploring, right? This idea that pictures and images and all of these things are coming to you. What do you do with them? What do
Yeah.
you do with them? How do you make something out of it? And and that's what we're figuring out because people are starting to do it. And when it maybe ties into the spiritual or new age community when you're talking about the law of attraction and these things that of these thoughts and these images coming to people, or either they're coming to you or you project them out into the biosphere and or towards the sun or in the sunlight or to the clouds. This is the we don't know. And then it reverberates and comes back to you. Are you receiving these messages or are you creating them? It almost seems like this, where there is a narrative that some, we'll just say people want the masses to believe of, even with death. Maybe that's a thing too. Of this is what happens when you die. This is the purpose of life to do. But when you start asking those deeper questions, it's almost sending a signal or a beacon out there to the mass collective, and we're all shifting together. These personal epiphanies and awakenings that we're having, it's not just us, it's the entire planet. So it's almost like whether this is something that's breaking or allowing you to see through the matrix, whatever terminology we're, the veil is a great terminology actually to use. But as you're seeing it, it's changing the narrative, and more people are starting to experience, question, and believe a different narrative that makes the old veil become thin and fall away. So there's so much tied into it with whether it's group think, global brain, as what we can believe the majority, the more people, I know you've touched on a little bit of all of this, the more people that believe it, it can actually, we can will it into our reality and it becomes our truth, whether that's hap and it seems like somebody doesn't want that to happen. So I know that's still a lot. I'm throwing it
No,
out there.
that's good.
It's so much I
So
want to talk about.
no, that's good. And I feel those things too. Let's be honest about that, especially with well, let me talk about Upsight, this ability I have. Let me describe it so people understand exactly what it is, and then I'll tell you how I use it, how I experience it, and then I'm going to tell you how we know it's not just inside. It's not just a product of my imagination. So Upsight Vision is the ability to see and interact with these holographic images that seem to be everywhere around us, right? So if I see, oh, actually, and now let me tell you what it looks like. I'm going to give two examples, and I'm sure most of people, if you've seen the Iron Man movie, there's a scene with Tony Stark when he's in office. He's got the hologram of the universe around him, and he works in that environment. It looks like that. If you have not seen Iron Man, there's a movie called The Queen's Gambit, where the protagonist is laying on the bed and she's looking at the ceiling and she can move the chess pieces around. They're holographic. So she moves the chess pieces around. Both of those are good examples. And then the old Star Wars one where R2-D2 has got the thing of Princess Leia giving instructions. The problem with that one is they're not in full color. I don't like to use that one because it's not in full color. It's usually it's a color. It's a clear color, let's call it, with a tint, usually some kind of tint to it. So that's what I'm seeing. Now, once, and it could be related to what we're talking about, but just as many times it's not. So that's when I started doing it, I thought it was like this precognitive thing that I was going to win every horse race. I thought I could pick winners in football games. I thought I was going to win a fortune. This does not care about that. This does not care about that at all. In fact, it leads me away from it because it will show me a whole race, Kentucky Derby race, and it won't pick the winner. It won't, you know what I mean? It won't show me the real thing. It's got a trickster element. So anyway, once I look at this, I could turn my attention, I soften my eyes, and there it is. Now, once I engage with it, right, I can interact with it. So let's say I turn my attention and there is two kids throwing a Frisbee. Now, once I'm a part of this, I can change the Frisbee into a football, and they're throwing a football. So now I'm engaged with this thing. So it is an eternal receiver, right? I'm receiving it, and then I'm putting something back. So now there's something going on that's extraordinary. And I want to tell you three ways how we know. Well, by the way, it's not a Vivid's mind's eye, right? It's not good memory recall, and it's not a vivid mind's eye. And those things are really important, and those things are good, but it's not that. For example, if I was driving a car and you and I are chatting and you're in the passenger seat and you're like, remember the Jaws poster? And I could drive the car and I'd say, sure, I remember that, and think about it. If I'm doing this, I can't drive a car because I have to pay attention. My eyes have to focus. So I can do it as a passenger, but not as a driver. So that's number one. But three things. So how do we know it's outside my brain? Number one, my eyes get tired focusing on these images, just like your eyes get tired looking at a movie or anything else. Number two, the pupils dilate when I see something arousing or surprising. You cannot willfully dilate your pupils. It has to be done by an external stimuli. And that's proven, there's tons of proof on that. And number three, there's another thing called smooth pursuit eye movements. They can track your eyes, like if you're watching something go across the savannah, like a gazelle, you can track your eyes. And if you're actually following it, your eye goes smoothly. And if you're faking it, it jumps. You can't pretend your eyes are tracking something. So these are ways we know it's external, right? And I think, again, that's important because a lot of people, and I've heard it and I get it. It is a good question. Are you sure it's not in your head? Well, no, but yes, right? No, but it's like any other sense. You make a sound with your voice, my ears pick it up, but I respond with a sound from my voice. So there's an engagement going on. So that is what's happening with this, with whatever this is. And I don't know what it is. And it can be meaningful. I've learned that the images that keep coming back are meaningful. If the other ones, the things that seem to come back are meaningful, the ones that I can't bring back, they're just kind of a thought or meaningless or whatever. And I have seen all kinds of stuff. I've seen me playing as a child. I've seen my kids in the back of my house when they were children. So I've seen those things. Now, I don't actually think it's this very vivid actual memory. I think it's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of collective memory or something, because it looks like my children. So that's kind of when I want to search for answers with other people too.
Mm-hmm.
The more, if a bunch of us get together with this, I think we could actually communicate. We can get to that in a minute.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I wrote down that I wanted to talk to you about because, in this, sense of practicing, being able to practice with it, me and my wife have been trying to practice ESP and just, what is the science behind it? Is it to think a thought? Is it to look at the thing and transmit it? Is it do you have to put your hand on the person, in this form of mentalism, but it actually works and it's not trickery. And like you said, it's one of the things where sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. I think it works enough or the stuff is meaningful enough that comes to you that there's some significance to it to make sense out of it. Um, I'm with you on a couple of things on that track as far as it being just you or in your imagination. There's things that, and I can put myself out there because I'm asking questions too, but other people are experiencing this too. So there's no Messiah complex going on. Want to destroy that. You could easily market this as you are the guru, right? But no, this is stuff that obviously other people are experiencing and have experienced. To see these images and these just strange worlds within worlds, if you will, that maybe are more real than this realm that we're able to see into, catch glimpses into, that other people can see it and are seeing fractals or dimensions of it. And I think if you could learn how, I don't know about that, if you learn how to film it, if you learn how to get it to appear, whether it's a shadow, there has to be a scientific method, for this. And I think that there were. I don't think this is new. I think this has been hidden from us because it could be this place where there's infinite possibilities, infinite timelines that you can get clear on, think about, and will it into your now moment, into this timeline that we're communicating on right now. And that it's not just in your head. It, because I've had people say that as well, like, well, maybe God's just showing you these things and it's just you who can see it. It's like, no, I can record this on film. So, some of the things that I'm seeing anyway. Um, and I can show it in many cases and teach it in a sense, because it has to have this idea of repeatability, especially if you're going to try to practice it. Like, how do you practice? What is the practice of this supernatural phenomenon, mentalism, or whatever it is that we're experiencing, how to manifest or create from this realm of infinite possibilities? That's one way of looking at it. What would you say to that?
Yeah, for sure. And the science behind it too. I want to let's talk about that. What ions did and ions noetics. There's 2 blog posts. If your listeners want to go do them about the science behind that, just Google Upsight Vision ions, and you'll find it. One is written by me, and it's called "Is Upsight Vision a Psychic Ability?" And the other one is written by one of the neuroscientists about the peer review paper. Right. And what's really cool about it is the EEG waves are like my brain when I'm doing Upsight, like let's talk about the alpha waves, because that was the biggest difference. Now, alpha waves are the waves that come off your brain when you're pretty much relaxed. So when I was just thinking about one of the images they showed me, and they showed me an image, I would think about it and use my memory recall, and I would do that. And then I would see it with Upsight. When I was in Upsight during the alpha wave state, it blew up like Rudolph's nose. It just went off the charts. It did it in all the other waves too, but the alpha wave was the most obvious. It was the most unambiguous. Well, it was just, you'll see, if you see the blog post, it's just like this big blue blob, like almost like a storm's coming. But what's funny about that, I thought it was going to be the theta waves because that's what are associated with dreams. So I'm sitting there going into it like, you know what, the theta waves is going to be off the charts because it's kind of like dreaming, and I'm seeing the things that people dream. Not the case. I mean, definitely they show the difference, but the alpha waves was the most. So that intrigued the scientists behind it too, and obviously wanted to do more studies around the EEG waves. But to your point about another type of technology, seeing what you're talking about. Yeah, that's what my wife thinks. That's what my wife is so intrigued with. She's like, you need to do this. And, and think about it. If there was some kind of technology, again, I don't have to be I don't have to wait for it to happen. I can sit there. They could adjust whatever technology we use. I'm like, okay, here's what I'm seeing. Are you getting it? We could kind of dial it in, for lack of another words. We could dial it in and see if we could come up. I don't know what the technology is, but I think there's some things out there with infrared, with FLIR, all these kind of things. Now, to your point about repeatability, everyone says, can you teach this? I'm like, I don't want to tell somebody I can teach something because I'm still learning it. I'm starting to get comfortable with it. And to me, it's like singing. I think everybody can do this to some degree, but everybody is not Celine Dion, everyone not Taylor Swift, everyone's not Frank Sinatra. You know what I mean? Some people, whatever I've got it to some kind of nth degree. Now, I think if another person has it like I do, like I was saying earlier, I think if we're in the same room, I truly believe we would be able to see the same image, because I do think it's outside of us. And I've got one person I'm working with now. I don't know if we're going to get together because she's kind of far away, but in time we will. And again, I think that's one of the reasons I want to do this podcast. I want to get people to come forward and say this, because this woman said her mom, she told us when she was a kid, her mom about it. She goes, don't tell anyone that. They'll think you're crazy, people, and it makes sense. And you don't want to be oddball freaking out. And it's not only that, let's not kid ourselves. It is scary, right? Yeah. I've seen every horrible thing that one human being can do to another in a holographic form. When it happens, I look away, just like you'd look away from a video that was shocking. But on the flip side, I've seen beautiful things that you couldn't even imagine that open up your heart and soul. You're like, wow. So there's a lot, that's a lot, but I think it's part of this earthly realm. That's what I want to say. I think this is a new thing for us to explore. And just like when you would go into a jungle or a forest, humans would go in there, all these creatures would look at them, right? And some of them would pay attention and look back, but some of them would completely ignore them.
Yeah.
The ones that look back when I'm when I'm doing this upside, those are the ones that intrigue me because sometimes they're scary. Sometimes there's an interaction, and sometimes I'm like, look, I don't want to be a part of this. So,
Yeah.
um, again, I think there's other people that are way doing it, whether they're government, I don't know. I think other people do things that I don't know about, but I haven't been invited to any of that studies or anything. I'm paving my own way, at least I'm trying to.
I had a conversation with a young lady at one of our retreats that we hosted just the other day, and she opened up really vulnerably in front of everybody and shared her story. And I sent her your interview today, and she was very intrigued. But she shared about these experiences she had when she was a kid of um, almost what seemed to be like an alien abduction, being taken aboard some type of ship, being laid on a table, maybe being worked on or implants or something like that. But also other experiences where she's ascending and and going into a star or sitting on a star. And it's very strange because in your interview today, I heard you mention like both of those scenarios. Another vision that she had that was super realistic, that she was almost like teleported back and seen her living as Jesus, walking on the beach, and this really pure, beautiful energy that was there, so these weird night visions, if you will, but they're more real than this realm. Some of them scary with alien grays and being on a table, others of going into a star system. She shared that, and many people share those experiences. With the realm that I'm from more of a traditional Christian standpoint, people across the board say those are demons. You need to pray, shut it down immediately. It's not good. What I represent is saying, hold on, we don't know. You don't know that. What if that's where we come from?
Yeah.
And we're able to, and we're getting our DNA fixed? What if they're removing the trauma that this world is causing? And we wasn't supposed to wake up and see what they look like because we know they can appear as scary. And it's not, I'm not promoting any kind of like stuff like that, but it's just to step back and not to judge it at first so that we can ask questions, because that's the deal. If you're in a scenario, even if it's in a lucid dream where none of it's literally happening and you're going there in this type of dimensional dream state and you don't panic, maybe the first 17 times you panic,
Yeah,
18th
right.
time you go, you have the same, and this is true with nightmares. This is legit. If you can poise yourself in the nightmare and not freak out and stop running from the thing that's chasing you, and stop and turn around and say, hold on, what are you? To become lucid in the dream. And now you're hacking it, because the deceased relatives, you can actually ask them questions. You can say, hold on, I'm dreaming right now. Let me go talk to the president. Let me go talk to the pharaoh. And the interesting thing is that people are bringing back information. So with what the young lady is experiencing, what if this is what's naturally she's experiencing, and many people are experiencing? This is naturally what people have been writing about in holy books and in ancient tablets of these so-called psychic abilities, or prophets and seers of old, being able to see what's coming, or see behind the veil, or to will something and bring it into this reality. Many places we can go with that, but I'll let you take it.
No, I think that's true. I think a lot of people anybody that says it's demons, go out of it, stop doing it. They're just, that's what they've been told. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And people hear that. But if you actually had the experience, that's not the case. Sometimes, well, no, it is the case, but there's another part that keeps drawing you back. And I want to say this too. It's important. So before I was a Christian, before I did this, I was a Christian. You sit there. Well, do you think Jesus walked the earth? Even more now because I know how extraordinary this planet is and how extraordinary God is. So it did not do anything to diminish my faith. In fact, it made it stronger. Now, I'm not a really good Christian. I don't go to church a lot, but I still have faith. I still read the Bible, and it did not at all. And sometimes I see silhouettes of Jesus, and I'm just in awe. So let's talk about that. I think if you're taught to be afraid, you're going to be afraid. If something happens to you that's going to keep from that, I don't know how you get past it. Faith, something like that. And if you don't want to look, that's your journey. Fine. The bottom line, do good, love God with your whole body, mind, and soul. That's the key. Do no harm. Don't do any harm. If you think somebody is saying that they're seeing demons, that's fine. Let them do their thing because they're on their own journey. I don't think that's the case. Again, I think just like in 500 years ago, they thought if Columbus was going to sail off the edge of the planet, right? Because demons were over there. Didn't happen. I think what we're seeing is something that's here on Earth. Maybe it's what we thought some spiritual beings were 500 years ago. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe that's another realm. I don't know. But I think we need to look. And I think the reason I think we need to look is because there's some things here that can help humanity. I am drawn to this in a very positive way. No one will, I am drawn to this like a calling, like a spiritual calling. I'm supposed to build a team and connect people because we need to look here because there are answers here that will help all of humanity connect in better ways. We've got AI over here. People are scared of that. I call this EI, evolutionary intelligence. There's something over here that is drawing me that will help us. And that's what it feels that way. I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my soul. Now, when I see the scary things, right? When I see these creatures that you read about from aliens, a lot of times they'll just drift away. A lot of times it's like this fake, it's like a mask, and it goes away. And there's another thing that happens too. I'm tethered to God. I know I feel my tether to God. Let's call it a string, for lack of another word. And I know some of the messages are so, I know they're unfiltered and they're just amazing. You know what I mean? When you're in that spiritual moment of bliss. Yeah. But I also sometimes when I'm on that tether, something can jump in and corrupt it with like a corrupt file or a corrupt message. So even though it's coming through this path that typically I think is with God, you're like, wait, this is BS. This is not good. And, the Bible talks about Satan can get you the same way. So, you kind of built this filter. This discernment, that's the word, right?
Yeah.
And if it's not going to hurt anyone, that's kind of a good sign. You know what I mean? If it's going to help everybody, not just most people, but everybody, that's a good sign too. So I don't have it down pat. Don't get me wrong. I'm still working on it. And this is what I want to know. Where are these holographic images coming from, right? Derek, where are they coming from? A spaceship? Are they coming from a black op government program we know nothing about? Are they coming from future humans who've been able to figure out how to send holographs to the past? Are they coming from part of my DNA I know nothing about, right? Are they coming from other beings that live here? I don't have any answer at all. And that is really what I want to get. I think we can triangulate them with the technology you're talking about, perhaps back to the source. Now, that would be mind-blowing, or would it be scary? Right? Could that be another scary thing? I don't know, but I want to try.
Well, I think the answer is which is not an answer. It's all of those things.
Yeah, good.
All of those things happening at the same time. And that's what makes it way more complicated. If you can, because any of the, just Google any of those things you just said, and you're going to find schools of thought who say that it's only those things. And what I found with religion and with God and with answers, when you move forward into this is the only thing, or the only thing that's happening, that it is a government program that's sending voice of God technology, and they're putting thoughts in people's heads. There's people who they have 100% chips in that, and that's the only thing that's happening in their reality. I'm not saying that technology doesn't exist. They claim that it does, but for that to be the only thing, they learned it from something. So if it is a government agency, it's mimicked from a natural psychic phenomena that has been here since we got here, and it would be the same thing for if you're saying that these things or these practices are demonic. Nothing is demonic for what? If it's a law or a process of creating something or tapping in psychically, energetically to what somebody's feeling, putting thoughts in people's minds, whatever, they learned that from a place that was first good. So if demons or negative entities or negative people, negative entities that are controlling people or organizations can use it for evil, then good people and good entities can use it, the same process for good. Most of these things that we're talking about, these practices and stuff, they're tools. Your imagination to renew your mind, because you've said like you've seen beautiful things and grotesque things. Like how do we lean more maybe to that which is beautiful when you know that there's a distinction, or not be scared? So these are the things that we have to bring to the table and talk about so that we can have repeatability. Um, it's with synchronicity. It's almost like, I don't know what you want to call it. You call it God, angels, your psyche can only use what you put in there. Like that, what your consciousness understands from the movies you've watched, because fear and that which is grotesque is different for me and you, depending on the horror. I was a horror movie fanatic as a kid, and I had nightmares. All kids have nightmares. I can guarantee you they weren't like mine, because of, like, at a very young age watching all of these crazy horror. Now my imagination has a lot to choose from when it comes to show fear or show beauty. Fear for some is falling off a bike in slow motion. Oh, it's gonna hurt when I fall. For me, at a young age, it was different. I learned how to lucid dream early because I wanted to escape those nightmares that I was having, that I allowed to come. So I learned to work within some type of parameters of it being a thing. Hey, I know I'm dreaming. I know there's a monster chasing me, and I need to figure out how to wake up. I figured that out at like before 10 years old. From being and not reading any books, any of that, by, hey, let me kill myself in my dream and I'll wake up. And it would happen. I didn't want to be captured by the monsters and tormented. So I built a muscle to, anytime I was having a dream that wasn't pleasant, to say, okay, they're about to get you. You got to wake up. And I couldn't wake up unless I killed myself, swam to the bottom of a river and drowned in myself, or dove head first into a rock usually, and it would happen. And that was a practice. So now, but it was used for evil. If you can go into the dream and tap into it and know that you're dreaming, and how do we use it for good? How do I go talk to somebody of some kind of answer that I'm perplexed with in the waking hours? The studies have shown from people a lot smarter than me that when you do face those fears in the dream state, that you show that you've overcome obstacles in when you're awake. And many times those dreams never, those nightmares never come back. Once you stop running and you face it, and you kind of learn the lesson, it becomes a practice. So like, okay, yeah, I don't need to take that test anymore. So a lot of the stuff that we're seeing and experiencing, we get to, I think we get to pick what we want to lean into. Because just like you, like, we talking about a million thoughts per moment, that of endless scenarios that we can lean into, the ones that make us feel good, the one that has the best outcome for everybody, the one that where nobody gets hurt. This is what's happening, obviously in your imagination, but it's different when you see it and you're experiencing it like it's real, because there's a difference there. Because this is something you talked about too, that leans into all of this, is that it comes with a feeling that can be measured. There's a reason why when you have those visions, it's your kids and it's not just random people. There's a different feeling and emotion that is invoked in your body that can be measured, that they can put EEG machines on and test this. And there's all kind of ways to test this. This is where religion comes in, the peace and all of this kind of stuff, that it's a feeling that can be invoked in a person or a people and can be harnessed and used as energy.
Yeah.
I know
No,
I'm
that's good. That's
on you,
good.
but
That's absolutely
yeah.
true. And then think about this. The feeling was so these non-human intelligences that seem to be around us, right? This woman that you talked about she was abducted, perhaps. I was never abducted. There's no part of my story where I felt like I was taken out of a room or anything like that. But looking back, I feel like I may have been coerced to leave the family because I needed to be separated from them and spend a month on St. John's for some reason. There's a chapter in my book where I literally built a map of a galaxy in their room using ropes, strings, clothes. I drew pictures, all hanging from a fan. The cleaning people were like, stay out of this crazy man's room. Just stay out of there. And again, this time I was high a lot, but I was just doing something and I don't know why. I had to be away from the kids. So, and the family, looking back, that seems to was when I was there, I was really sad. I was depressed. I was all these things, but something was changing inside of me. And so the feeling, so think about this. So now let's say it's a guy, something happened where I had to go through this and everything break so I could get my feelings back and realize that, okay, you know what? That's not a true thought. That's a feeling, but I don't have to own that feeling. You know what I mean? That's a lie. This message is coming in this way, but I know it's BS. And again, so when you feel like, and it's kind of weird to say this, but there's 10 ways to be sad. There's 10 ways to feel joy. That's how nuanced it is. Now it's like almost I developed this feelings filter that's been amplified. I think people with autism might have something like this. You know what I mean? They can't, they get overstimulated. Something like that may have happened to me. I don't know though, but I know this. My brain is different from where it started and where it is now. And you talked about fractals earlier. When I came out of this, I was obsessed with maths because there's no shape, topological space, manifold that I cannot see in my field of vision and dissect and cut up. And it's extraordinary. It is extraordinary. I've built this multi-dimensional coordinate system that puts the Cartesian coordinate system to shame. It is so complex. The math on it is pretty basic undergraduate math, but the system itself is complex. Why was I driven to create this thing? And it took years to build it. It was like a gamification thing where I couldn't get to the next level of this thing until I got this one right. Then it was the next one. Then it was the next one. Finally, a couple of years ago, I was done. And I was like, and it literally physically, I was like, wow, this is done. Now what? I haven't built it in real life. I have not created a software around it. I'm very seriously thinking about doing it because it is next level cool. But there was a guy, and then I'll be quiet in a minute, a guy named Tennant, he was a Tennant, maybe Jeffrey Tennant. He was knocked out. He was mugged. When he woke up, he saw these fractals everywhere. He just saw fractals. I think I have something like that happen to me, but it was fractals and beyond. You know what I mean? It's not just that. I see the images, the people. It's almost like he knocked on the windshield and it cracked. I knocked on the windshield and it broke through. Something like that, maybe. So the idea of what you're vibing in and what you're putting out there, there's the what's the word? It's a bland feeling. You know what I mean? Just kind of facts, right? It's just the basic math has got no feelings. It just is, right? And that's interesting because a lot of the stuff I want to do is got no feeling. It's just something that is. I want to see it because I'm curious and it's interesting to my brain. Now, sure, it intrigues me and there's a curiosity around it. So that's a feeling, but anyway, I'll stop on that one.
Man, it's so many places to go, but like you say, you feel like so you say you feel like it's your calling, right? This is your calling. So a calling denotes that someone is calling out to you. And I think it's getting to the bottom of who or what, and maybe it's not even just one thing. Maybe there are bad things calling us, obviously. It seems easier to hear their voices. Maybe to hear those voices, all we got to do is turn on the television and maybe it is separating yourself and turning the television off that you can get clear on the still small voice that is speaking as well, which obviously is, biblically always Jesus speaking amongst the crowd. That's always the voice of reason, the voice of love, the voice of hope, that I think if we listen close enough, we can hear it. So when it comes to people having these same experiences, um, we can choose what voices we obey. Oh, I'm hearing voices. What are they telling you? What are they telling you? For saying if it's God, God told me this, God told me that. Okay, what told you what? Good, bad, you know, told you you are the Messiah. That come on, like we got to look at the fruit of it to see if you should lean into it or if you should stop listening. And by
Yeah.
voice, we can just say imagination. It's showing itself to you. However, um, I mean, I'm getting these messages like in my inbox from people all the time. Somebody asked me just 3 days ago, do you have any videos on um, schizophrenia in the spirit world? So, well, I don't have any directly about that, but I've talked about it in many episodes, right? But there's no, you know, blog or just video to it. But I told him this, and maybe you can attest a little bit, that what I've seen from starting out in a psychosis that was um, in the negative, I'll say that. My introduction to this was witchcraft, which it wasn't drugs. Like I smoked pot or whatever, but I was a teenager doing witchcraft and seance rituals, trying to open myself up to demonic forces or any force outside of myself. And it happened. That I was seen taken into portals and shown crazy stuff at their will. I couldn't turn it off and on. It was always scary, crazy swirls, shapes, faces, 17 voices at once talking to me. I would go pale. I would fall into a trance, and this would happen at 15. And it was torment. I was going schizophrenic. I opened up some kind of gateway communication portal that I couldn't close. So psychic abilities from 0 to 1,000, not even 100. Walking, I knew everybody's thoughts in a room. Walk into a room, oh my, and it's so overwhelming that I couldn't look at anybody. I knew what they were thinking. I knew what they did. I knew what you had for dinner. I knew you just got into it with your husband. Like, and walking into a McDonald's. This was like psychosis that I was at rock bottom at 15 years old by making covenants with demons, if you will. And so I got into church. I repented. My health started to go downhill and all this kind of stuff. I got my life back on track. It took a long time, long hard road to retrain my brain. But let me just hang out here a little bit. In that psychosis, let me give you a few more things. Um, Believing 1,000% scenarios were real. The one thing that I talked about was what I called the spirit of hypochondria, was that any ailment that I heard on the television through the waves, just channel surfing, and I remember just a couple vividly, brain cancer. Like someone said it on television, and I believed it 1,000% as soon as they said, "Oh, I got brain cancer. Oh man, I'm gonna die." Another one was testicular cancer. Like all of these things from someone else saying it, and it stuck to me like glue, and it was negative. And it was like this overwhelming, I'm gonna die of brain cancer. I've got it. I know it. That's why that pain is in my head. And it was just at will. You would hear it, and there was like no defense. There was no wall of reasoning to block it out or to say, "Come on, that guy has it, not you," you know, this kind of thing. And so it was. I mean, that's what a hypochondriac is. There was nothing in my brain to block it out, to reason it. And while I was in that psychosis for the period of time I was in, it was all scary, dark stuff. It was, visions of my death and demons were coming to get me and all of that kind of stuff that people experience on meth binges and stuff like that. Um, I say all that to say that was, if I had a chart, which I do, maybe we all start out at 0. And let's say I got to that place at -3. me tapping into this stuff that I was looking into put me at level -3. So I'm already 3 steps back into the dark side, into the negative side, experiencing all of this crazy stuff. Um, and then now, that was over 20 years ago. Removed, I'm in a beautiful state of mind in life and God and Christ and that which is good and fixing myself and trying to my best to help others. Like now, but the psychosis is back. The psychosis is still it's back. Like I trained to get it out, but it's here. Now I um experience synchronicity. I experience the beautiful side of it, where not God and the demons are trying to get me, no, but that they are real and they're here to help me. They're here to, um, signs and symbols, seeing signs everywhere. You say something and then the television repeats it. Like that was happening in the negative psychosis, but it was like, you're gonna die. You got cancer. It was all demonic, lower stuff. Now it's like, hey, call your mother. Hey, ask this person to forgive you. Hey, do this. Like it's all beautiful things that everybody, not e- so many people are experiencing synchronicities at an all-time high. The numbers that are sticking out to you, all of this stuff is happening, but so what I'm suggesting is that what was available for me just at my meter at -3, and then I worked my way back to 0, and now I'm working up into tapping into the stuff the good way, that they come full circle. So those same type of psychosis that you're in, because you're experiencing a reality that nobody else is. You think now it's the difference between paranoia and pronoia. That's literally it. Paranoia is that God, the universe is out to get you. Everyone is out to get you. And if you think that, you believe it, you dwell upon it, it becomes your reality. And now, pronoia is God, the universe, everything is here to assist and to help us in this journey.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
not Messiah complex, where like
No, 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 not at all.
everyone's here for me. But But yeah, so we're experiencing this stuff, and obviously it can be experienced for good energy or for bad. And the balance is the key, to not drink your own Kool-Aid, which is turns into the Messiah complex. But those types of psychic abilities, if you will, ESP, precognition, um, prophetic dreams, a lot of the stuff you're talking about being able to see, like I am friends with so many people and have been a part of communities that practice it that way. But they look at people and they get the messages and they
Oh
see
yeah.
snakes around the feet and
Yeah.
chains on their shoulders that are heavy. And so they pray for them or go and even remove it off of them. Like spiritually reach out and grab it and take the chains off and throw it down. And then the person starts crying and they can feel it. It's like, hold on. There's something to these dreams and visions that are in the spirit world that represent something in the physical.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great description of the paranoia to the pronoia. And that's, yeah, and that's my story too. No kidding. That's literally my story too, because that's why I walked down in the family. That's why I walked down in the business, because I was paranoid. And I believed just like you. Some thought it, you believe it, you take action on it. Now, these things, and then I write about this instance in the book, an instance of synchronicity that was so mind-blowing that I fell to my knees, because I was listening to the song Blinded by the Light by Bruce Springsteen, right? I'm listening to the song, and every piece of everything around me was related to the song. So imagine, like, you used to have to block a movie to get the moments in the song so the beats hit and stuff. This happened like for like 30 seconds of the song. Everything that happened, a truck drove by with something on the side related to the song. A man literally picked up something and put over his shoulder. I was almost in tears. And I thought I thought people were making fun of me and mocking me, like anybody can watch me and they're making fun of me and they're with these powerful people or beings.
Yeah.
Now I look back, I'm like, hold on, that was a sign to let you know, forget paranoia. There's a way the universe can help you. They're showing you this now because it's almost like we're kind of dumb, like a dumb animal. right?
Yeah.
You need to see the negative to understand that there's a flip side of that too. But like you, the universe is definitely showing me things. Now, do I want to pay attention to those things? That's the key. Am I open enough? Do I trust myself enough to trust the universe that's going to give me what? Is it my need? Is it God's need? I don't know. If it feels right, I do think we have free will. I do. I think we have free will. And all of us have different parameters. What some of us are, will do more things bad than others, however we want to do them. Some people do more good. Some people will volunteer more. Some people have more business sense. Some people are smarter, stronger, but we have free will. And if there's somebody listening to this, I want to say this right now because it's important. If you're at a bottom and you're listening to the show to get some guidance, I'm telling you, you can come back. If you're at a -3 and you're outside a psych ward and you're taking a hit of meth right now, there is a way back, and you can put it down and you can get clean and you can build back to things, and it can be better. Whether you believe it or not, I'm telling you, it's true. If it happened for me, it can happen for you. Because I didn't think there was going to be a way back. I did not. I mean, not only drug addict, but psychotic drug addict.
Sure.
And I'm clean and sober, and I have these amazing thoughts. Again, you just said a great description. The universe is helping me. It's connected us, Derek. The universe, for whatever reason, is connected us. And you said some things that I needed to hear to say today, which were good. I love the way you put it. And I'm talking to somebody else. This is what's so funny about the connection.
Come
I'm
on.
literally talking to somebody else about synchronicity. I have a phone call with them, a Zoom call with them tomorrow to talk about the same time thing. We're like, how can the universe could be guiding us to this path? It seems like, should we trust this? It's like, why not? Why not trust the good things are going to happen, But let's absolutely, it's nobody, again, do no harm, don't hurt, you know what I mean? The love thing, right? Don't, it's like the universe is telling me to steal this money because no, it's not. That's not right. That's probably not a good thing to do. So yeah, that was good. That was good. And I think
Well, hey, let me ask you this. So I know you gave the scenario for the song that you heard that was like you interpreted it as, an attack or this, mockery, or that it was negative, when you started. Now, are you having those experiences now where the song or the television or whatever is telling you
all
these
the time.
beautiful messages like, hey, I'm on the right track. This is like encouraging now, and this is bringing me peace, or a tear to my eye, letting me know that I'm, whatever, loved by God through
Yes. So
music.
I'm
Yeah.
going to do the most literal, simple thing. So let's just say I'm sitting there, God, give me a sign. Let's see if I want to get this direct. God, give me a sign that I should do something. And then literally there will be a truck or a billboard that says, God says, follow your dreams. I mean, that's
It'll
so
be
simple.
Nike. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Right,
Like,
right then, in that moment. And can even be, that's a broad one. It could be so specific, it would be something, let's say about specific. Should I go see my son and I'll think of his name tomorrow, and there'll be a billboard with his name on it and said, something like that. It's that specific. So I totally believe it. And I do believe it's God, the universe guiding me. I don't believe it. I know it because I see it and I feel it. That's the key. I feel it. There's extra physical that we are connected to that people, skeptics and whatever skeptics don't want to believe in, but it's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. I don't know. It's just it is nonsense. There's so much more. Come on. It's almost like it's these people that say this here. I'll use this example. They're like, well, how could you be getting these things from the universe? Listen, we have radio waves, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth going through the universe from one technology to another, right? When it's traveling, you don't see it. When it lands, it's interpreted. We're picking up these signals from the universe. And I don't know where they're coming from. Some are good, some are bad. Some may be man-made, some may be non-human intelligence, some may be God. But it's kind of fun when it happens. Where I am now, it's fun. It was not fun 12 years ago. I can promise you that. Being on this journey feels good because I know I'm doing it for the right reasons. And again,
not
it's a
enough
call.
hours in the day, right?
What's that?
That there's not enough hours in the day, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. I know people have upsight vision to some degree. They have this psychic ability, and I don't want them to be afraid of it. And Yeah, that's it. Again, that's what I want to say. That's why I wanted to talk to you. And there's science behind it too. That's the other thing. For the skeptics, there's science behind it. It's not just something I think I'm doing. I'm absolutely doing it. I went to IONS, they did it, and more tests can be done. I want to get a bigger data set. I want to get 12 of it, maybe not 12, a handful of us out there. And then I think other universities are going to want to I imagine once this is out there, another university is going to say, okay, let's duplicate this in another lab. Sign me up, fly me to France, put me up in a 5-star hotel and send me to your lab and I'll do this all day long.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful things that you've brought to the table, and what people are, you know, bringing to the table because of your work, because you're having the conversation and bringing different pieces of the puzzle, and that's the beautiful thing. And I think that, I mean, you've already done it for me, listening to you speak, and hopefully vice versa. Well, let me say this. So again, with like being able to practice, that's a big thing. I'm seeing that consistency. Like, I'm a student of the Bible. That's my book, But I read all the holy texts, and I find the similarities, and they're all saying the same thing, just using different language is what it is. But there's these instances where these miracle workers are trained up on how to do something. And it's a miracle because the science isn't understood by the masses. It is a person who has separated themselves. Moses goes into the desert. God comes to him, speaks to him, begins to train him and talk to him through everything around him. And he trains him on how to do certain things, how to move water, how to hit rocks, and to do like to work with energy and spirits, right? But one of those things about that is that he allowed him to practice, because there was an instance in Exodus where um, God tells Moses to take a staff, throw it at the ground, and I'm going to teach you how to turn your staff into a serpent or a dragon, is what it says. So he throws it at the ground, and his staff becomes this serpent, and it morphs and it changes forms, and it scares the heck out of Moses, so much so that he runs away screaming. This is what the Bible says. He runs away screaming, "Oh my God, this little man!" Like, who, we don't know if it was a 3 foot tall reptilian being he summoned, or literally a little dragon or a snake or whatever. There's some crocodile, but it scared him so much so that he ran. God comes to him, speaks to him, says, "Hey, I need you to do this again, because what I'm training you for, you're not going to be able to run. You need to stand your ground and make eye contact with the people who claim to be the best magicians of, in the land, which was Pharaoh. I'm training you so that when you're doing this in front of Pharaoh, you can look him dead in the eye, throw your staff down, it turns into this little dragon, and you don't even bat an eye. Everybody's freaked out, but you're confident. I want you to work with this in private so that I can show my power in you in the public, right? So that denotes this a universal principle that God is teaching his children these things, and he's also given them the permission to fail and practice so that they can get better at it. With these little church groups and functions that I used to go to, were training in the prophetic, and there was many exercises that they developed and that we would do, and that they wrote books on it, and they tried it, because sometimes it would work, other times it wouldn't. But those who were willing to practice and had the grace to mess up and not be judged or condemned to beat up about it, they could try it again and say, okay, that didn't work that time, but let me try it this way. Maybe it's I have to see it, actually see it, and then maybe I have to generate a feeling, and then the feeling gives it life. I don't know. But they would be able to do little things, as far as like, two people would go park at different places in the city, and they would have to kind of remote view and see the image where their friend was, and drive in their vehicle to go to the location to find them. And they would show up at a park, or they would see things around, and they would get good at it. And these were Christians. This is something that was pastors and ministers were doing, because they read about Jesus and Moses and the disciples operating in such gifts, if you will, that they thought that they can do it, and they got good at it. So this practicing is something that needs to be done. And And I think we can look back at those examples and try it today. So I wanted to try something out with you and with the listeners, people listening, people driving, sitting around wherever they are. I am thinking of a number between 1 and 9. It's a single digit number. I'm looking at it. I'm saying it to myself. And it's okay to mess up. It's okay to get it wrong. But what I would ask is what number do you see the first thing you either heard or saw? Because just as you're seeing this, right, other people can hear it. And then other people have to close their eyes and they see this number. Do you want to take a shot?
Yeah, 9. That's my shot, 9.
Okay. It wasn't 9. It wasn't 9, but it's okay to mess up because that's how we practice.
Yeah. So can I talk about that? Can I say something about that? Because
Yeah, let me say
did you have
the number's 2. I don't know. We're trying to get the science. How
no,
do we
let's
how
talk
do
about
we-
that.
Go ahead.
It's a big deal. So I'm glad you did this. I'm so glad you did this because I get asked about this all the time. And I even try to do it with my wife, and we get sometimes and we don't.
Thanks.
And I saw the number 9. I didn't even I'd see. I kind of, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I tried to dial in with you, but I saw the number 9. I don't know why it will work and why it won't. I do know this. It seems to work better if I am in a physical location with them, or maybe if it's rubbed off even some kind of contact with them. I'm going to tell this story. The other day, I was in an office building with a guy who wanted to learn about this, and we were going to the office, and he goes, "Can you do an example of Upsight Vision?" I said, "I'll do it, but it's going to be meaningless." I mean, I said, "It's more likely you're not going to understand what's going on, and you're just going to say, well, that's weird, but I will do it to show you what it is." Right. So I did it. I turned my head and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm seeing. And I told him I was seeing a brand new sports car on the showroom floor. And I'm like, look, I don't know what it means. It means nothing to me. He literally pulls out his phone and he says, "I just bought a sports car." See, so I don't know. I have not practiced that ability
Mhm.
because I haven't practiced. I play with it. So there's difference between practicing and playing. I play with that. I play with precog. I play with remote viewing. I play with telepathy, and all those things. I play with those things, but my goal is I don't play with Upsight because I can do it so specifically. I can do that 100% of the time. As it relates to those other abilities, it's less so. So my thing is, let's study exactly what this is, and then we can apply it to remote viewing. Then we can apply it to telepathy. That's where I am. And obviously I've thought about this a lot, I think remote viewing, of course it's real. Of course it's real. How can it not be real? I mean, I mean, do you think it was just some imagination, these people doing it? You think the government is paying, I don't know who they're doing, some guys in the army or the CIA or wherever they are, they're doing this because it doesn't work? No, they're doing it because it works. Other countries know this. They just don't talk about it because it's probably smarter to not talk about it from the military perspective. And it's probably smarter to have everyone thinks it's not, you know what I mean? It's not, you can't do it because they want to keep it a secret. And even the same thing with religions, Derek, these religions, imagine if the religious leaders, I mean, Jesus talked about this, they're bad, right?
Yeah.
You
Sure.
don't want all the congregants to know that the leaders are bad. I'm not saying they are, but it's like the worst thing they want. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. So you have to be able to fail. You have to be able to fail. And I love the way you looked at that. And I love that we did it. Let's do another thing. Can I do something?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, all right, great. Let's do this. I'm going to do an Upsight Vision right now, and I'm going to describe it to you, right? So for whoever's listening, driving in a car or at home, whatever, I'm going to relate to this. It may relate to what Derek and I are talking about, but in fact may relate to you sitting at home in the kitchen table, watching your child play with blocks. And if it does, you could say, wow, that was amazing. And if it doesn't, no big deal. So here we go. I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing right now with Upsight Vision. It is in fact, it's not a race car. It's a drag racer. You know those drag racers, the short ones. It's a drag race. That's literally what I'm seeing. One of those pointy drag racing cars, and it's up on its back wheels, and the back wheels are spinning. That's it. Now, obviously, that was probably suggested on my part when I was talking about the other sports car, which was not a drag race car. It was a car, for the street. But so I don't know what it means, right? I don't know if somebody, but actually, can you imagine if somebody's listening to this, literally working on a drag race car? They're gonna be like, "Holy shit!" That's just wild.
If
So
that's
I
you,
don't
let
know.
us know in the comment section.
Yeah, for sure. If it's
Or if it
happening, or
meant
even if
anything
you're
to anyone.
yeah, or even if you're thinking, if you were thinking I'm going to do this weekend or something, or talking to a loved one about it, it's just wild how this works. It's a connection to something, and it's to show us there's so much more than this physical realm, and it's important and it's meaningful, and it can help us navigate life and make it easier for us and our loved ones.
Yep.
That's the key, man. That is the key. Life is hard. I mean, life is hard, and it's getting harder. It's hard. So anything that can take a little bit easier, I'm all for it.
I again with the Bible stuff or spirituality and things like that, I really teach on divination, but from a biblical sense. Mainly, I use that word a lot because uh, there's a shock value to it because people have been taught to demonize divination because demons are the first thing that come to them. But prayer is a form of divination. Fasting, doing something in the physical or perceiving something in the physical to get results from the spirit world, including God and angels. I mean, that's the definition of divination, is one who is able to divine, even a water uh, diviner, a person is able to use their body and tell where water is, even underground, divining rods, where they're trained to use these rods and the rods move a certain type of way. Literally, people are able to find water underground. So divining, but there's so many amazing, like so many ways that are in the Bible, but also every other ancient text and practice as well talk about some really cool stuff. But I define it in the sense where it's the sense of God is always talking. You're just getting good at hearing the voice of God that is speaking through everything or through the different languages. Um, there's a saying that says, nothing cannot not communicate. Nothing cannot not communicate, which implies everything is always communicating. It's saying something. Your ability to speak the language and to hear, because it is one of your words, nonverbal. It is nonverbal communication because it doesn't speak English or it doesn't use words. It uses thoughts, impressions, ideas. Babies communicate. They don't use words, they cry. You talked about one of your visions, you kept seeing a wheel fall off on a shopping cart. Squeaky, the squeaky wheel is communicating. It needs oil or it's going to fall off. Your stomach communicates and lets you know when it starts rumbling that it's hungry. Everything is always communicating through vibration, which words are vibration. So it's learning how to interpret and speak the language that uses no words. This is something that is very ancient that we have forgotten about, that is obviously coming back in one shape or form. That something, this is what I say about synchronicity. Something is trying to get our attention. Something or someone.
Agreed. Do you still have that ability to know if somebody enters a room, whether they're bad or good, or do you still have that?
Yeah, but it's there's levels to it because some people are great at masking if they're bad or good. There's a certain, inner energy that we can read that even children can pick up, right? That people
Mm.
like children just are scared or repulsed by. certain
Yeah.
people, and people don't know why. You're able to pick up something. But what I'm learning now 40 years into this life, is that there's people that are good at masking that energy and not allowing you to see that they're bad, because
So that, yeah,
like being like a good judge of character for just a common thing, but
yeah,
a good evil person who's good at it,
a
you
good
never
evil
know
person.
that your
Yeah.
path is bad, you know.
No, it's the reason I thought about that when you were telling about McDonald's, you say all the thoughts were coming at you. Since I've come out of this, it's not a thought, it's a feeling. It's almost like a smell. It's not a smell either, but you get what my point is.
Yeah,
I've had come across two people who have been in my presence that I knew they were evil and they've murdered people.
yeah,
I had a guy sit next to me at an AA meeting, and I was like, and this guy was talking like, "Oh, I love this." I'm like, this guy is literally, there might even be a body in his car. He was
yeah,
so evil, right? He was saying this other thing. And another time I was at a GNC, and the man that was helping me, I was like, this was a different, he was, I don't know if he was like a child molester or he had somebody, same kind of thing. He was doing evil things. Um, and those both terrified me. And I've told my wife that every time it happens, which has only happened two times in a dozen years. And she's like, Tom, you need to think about that. That's pretty good statistics that people are good. You've come across a lot of people in 12 years, and I like the way she thinks about it. But my point is that ability is scary, because what can you do with that? Um, because I don't know, it's not like you want to you're not going to go to the cops and say, this guy sitting next to me, I think he killed people. No, they're not going to do anything. It's just weird. And it was so fleeting too. It's not like you could follow up on it, but I was wondering if you had that ability
yeah.
still.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm with you. It's like, okay, what do we do with it? And with things that you don't know how or what to do with it. So the easy thing, or the first thing, that because a lot of people get that and you don't know what to do with it. Do you confront them, whatever the case is? We were taught to pray for them first of all. Like, pray for them, or pray for the victim. Pray for the people to start, just start there, because that prayer is it's invoking something in you. So when you're praying, then you may get more,
Mhm.
because we're all getting these feelings. I'll tell you right now, like a lot of things that Elon Musk is doing, I thought about as a child, stuff that he's doing, Neuralink, all this kind of stuff, like being able to put helmets on and have the same dreams and go into each other's visions. Like, we've been seeing this stuff as a child, so it's in the air. This energy, this information, some people call it the Akashic. In the Bible, it's called the Book of Life. It records the deeds, and every thought and every infinite possibilities exist that we can that trickles down to us, and we can pick up on these thoughts and energies and information. Um, it's I'm experiencing it right now in a form where, like, it was kind of scary, because I know all of this wild ancient wisdom of how the spirit realm works, and I study this stuff, and I'm into it, and I it's my life. But it shifted and took like a crazy turn, probably almost 2 years ago now, where it got real. Like, it's all beautiful though, and I'm just writing and writing and writing, and stuff it's just pouring out of me. It's a form of like automatic writing, but it's insights on the Bible and so much ancient text. And it's a form of psychosis, because now here I am, I can't cite sources. Uh, to me, as the experiencer, I'm making it up, and I got to be honest with myself on how I feel. I believe it 1,000%. It's all good, but I'm like, man, what's going on? Because at first, the energy to experience it, like what's happening, was insane.
Yeah.
And then I got all of these cool things. I don't know what to do with it. They're just a part of, God is teaching me. I'll just leave it to that, the angels, whatever. But eventually, I started to be able to figure out where the stuff was coming from. I literally thought I was making all of this stuff up. So there was a lack of confidence with me sharing any of this as truth, because I'm just these concepts I've come up with. I was led to, and am continually being led to, philosophers, ancient mystics, most of them ancient Christians, who were around in the 1700s, 1500s, who wrote books on all of this stuff, but died with their work. And they died with it, and nobody was around to carry the torch to bring it further. And then you come into alignment with, okay, we've been teaching you, we've been guiding you, and you're now ready for the next steps. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I'm telling you, all of these crazy things that I have been writing about, I have been able to cite the sources and honor the vessel who brought it as far as they did. I've got their names, I've got their books, all of this stuff. And the first one was so crazy that I cracked the book open and read just 2 or 3 pages before I went to bed one night and put the book beside my bed, and I didn't touch it for months.
Yeah.
I'm a slow reader. And then as I finally picked the book back up months later, everything that I wrote was in the next 4 chapters that I read
That's
in this book of
wild.
Ancient Christianity by Annie Besant. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's
And then now it's a thing. So as I'm Googling some of these terms and research that I'm coming up with, I'm able to find Jewish mystics and who taught on all of this stuff that I'm like, okay, I'm going crazy again, like how do you know these things? Like you want to honor the source, but I'm trying to make sure that I'm not falling into another psychosis. But mind you, it is psychosis because you're writing in front of a keyboard and there's information just being downloaded to you. You go to sleep and you wake up and you know all of this stuff. That doesn't seem normal
Yeah, I
to.
think psychosis has a negative connotation.
I
I
would,
mean,
I would put a positive
a
spin on it.
download is more neutral, right? I mean, it's cool. I think you do have a download. I think that obvious. What I think you just said it. It's real. You're picking up something and you're writing it and coming through it. You know, it's an amazing thing. But that's, yeah, we've got so many similar stories. It's wild. You know what I mean? It's wild, and I like I like the vibe that it brings, and it's like you got this thing, you lined it up. This person from 500 years ago is over here. You're here now. All of a sudden, boom! You lined it up. Now you're going forward with it. I don't know. It's really cool, and that is real. And it's download is safe. It's psychosis is a negative term. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? But
yeah, for
something is
sure.
open up to you, and you're willing to receive it. Again, the thing is, it's with an open heart and a caring heart and a loving heart, and it's not evil. You know, that's the key. And you said this a moment earlier. And I wanted to come back to it about how, and everybody says this, but from my experience, it's also true. God is quiet. It's it's quiet.
Yeah.
And even if it's so much loudness around you, God comes in a whisper. And
Mhm.
you're like, and that's wild though, right? When you get in this whisper, you're like, oh, that's good. It's like just a here, shh. That is powerful stuff. If you're at a stadium filled with NFL fans, but you get a whisper,
Yeah.
come on. I mean, that is a plus. That is good. Um,
That's
and
amazing. I was just looking that word up, and it is whisper. It is the whisper, the silence, the still small
yeah,
voice.
yeah, and it's great, and it's when it comes, you feel it, and if you're want if you I think if you want to feel it, well, no, you can work on it. Of course, you can work on it.
Mhm.
You can't demand it. I guess that's a better way to say it, but you can pray for it.
You can quiet
Pray
down
for it.
the other voices that are speaking in your mind or in your life and
What's
focus.
that?
And you can key in on the quiet voice that is still there amidst the crowd. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's symbolic because you learn to turn the stadium down,
yeah,
even though
yeah.
you're still
Good.
in the stadium. So that's the practice. The practice, it isn't turning God up, it's turning everything else down,
Yeah,
which is what nature does in general. Like it helps us to reset and it brings the things to us that are supposed to matter, essentially the things we've been ignoring or
yeah,
we've been trying to suppress, death, the afterlife. I think a lot of this comes into death in the afterlife about that the people we think are quote unquote dead are not dead. Their energy, their information, their personality, everything they carried is still here looking for somebody to remember them and to, continue to carry their work forward or their life or their legacy, their character.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it just depends on how you want to word it. You take your choice. It's
Well,
everything
well,
happening
that
all the
that's
time.
funny, but that's funny because again, everyone talks to me. I talk about these. Do I want to be a medium? Do I want to
Yeah,
talk
same
to these?
thing.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that yet, you know? And again, I'm still a student. I can read, everyone gives off a upside like an aura. Everyone has it. If I was in the room with you, it's not easy to do now. It's not easy to do anyway, but I could sit there and something would come off of you. It's just, it's like I've thought about, well, maybe I can do that because it'd be really cool. But I'm not going to tell, I'm just going to read it. But
Mhm.
my wife's like, well, the mediums say this is what it means. I don't know what it means. I don't want to pretend. Now, maybe if I practice it, maybe, maybe if I ask questions, but I'm just not there yet. Not yet. I'm not there yet.
We just so there's a couple practices. Again, you got to get people who are open, and we've done this online too, because that was my big thing, doing sessions and stuff from being a part of a local church and ministries to doing like more online stuff. It was different because in the room there's you feel things in your body,
Sure.
you see the like it's different. You can look at the person and see their shadow, like everything's totally different. And I was kind of afraid that it wouldn't be able to translate online on a Zoom call. But when we started, a lady asked me to practice on her years ago. She was trying to encourage me. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And literally, we go into a prayer. Or I'm just trying to get something for her, and I got something, and she was like, oh my God, that's it. That's exactly what was going on. I got a pain in my neck. I just went to the doctor. It was like, wow, because I saw it and I felt it in my body. See, that's the thing where we got to start learning this stuff because we start feeling it, and I feel like we can keep it. Stuff that's not ours, that we're carrying messages and things that are for other people, and we don't know what to do with the energy. And if you don't know what to do with the trauma and all that kind of stuff, it can become a part of you, and that's
You
when
know,
it's psychosis.
Yeah, and I'm very health conscious. I run every day. I lift weights. That keeps me grounded. I'm very much take care of myself. And I know it's true, by the way, that distance, even though I say for this, I can't do it over online, but I know there's people, I know personally people that have had mediums talk to them over like in London when they were here and they tell them stuff they couldn't imagine. It's all that quantum tunneling, that quantum entanglement. You can connect to other people. And again, if I practice it, maybe I could do it. I just haven't had the interest. There's so many things I could do,
In
but I
person's
haven't
way
done them
better.
yet.
In person's better. It just is, you
It
know.
is, yeah.
But hey, I mean, sometimes, especially going through what we went through, you had to learn how to do it online, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, how much longer do you have?
Let's do 5 minutes. I got a 1 o'clock business meeting and I need to eat something. So 5 more minutes.
Okay, great. I wanted to run this by you too, just talking about the alien gray stuff as far as like in a lot of your experiences, you've seen alien grays that are present, whether they're watching you or maybe guiding you off to the side. I know you're still in the air about it. And some of my encounters, I haven't seen an alien gray. I have seen silhouettes of little humanoids that are just silhouettes, and sometimes they're colors and lights, but they're intelligent, and it's scary to feel like you're being watched by something out the corner of your eye, right? um i I wanted to bring that up because with talking about seeing that during your like astral projections and remote viewing and stuff like that. um I I just read a little bit of Crowley stuff recently just because I wasn't aware. I understood what I was told, and it was to stay away. It was all demonic, but his stuff, it definitely wasn't all demonic. But anyway, he talks about um, doing these certain astral projections and remote viewing sessions with other people. And he describes in one of his manuscripts that there's a group of people who can do it and ascend into the heavens and have conversations and communicate with one another and get orders, and you all can do it together. He was training people how to do it.
Hmm.
And I know many Christians who are doing similar things. I I wanted to share that with you because of bringing other people into the experience to do this nonverbal communication, and then it was like then you can come back and say, okay, what were we talking about there, to see if it's even legit. But all of that to say that Crowley eventually drew a picture of this little guy, this little man that was that he was seeing in a lot of his visions and in his journey. He called him Lam, Lam, which looks like this alien gray. So I wanted to link the little alien gray type being, but also to this astral projection phenomena. And get your thoughts on that and your experiences if you wanted to share just a little bit.
So are you asking, do you want me to tell my experience with the grays, the one that you've seen the image of? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. But
So when I
I
started,
wanted to share that with you too.
no,
And
no, yeah, that's great. And that's funny too, because
connect.
what I'm going to tell is not that. It's the opposite. It's all, the aliens were doing what Crowley said he was doing. That's what's crazy right now about that story. So when I first started doing this, now there's protocols for people who want to call aliens. It's called Heist and C5. I came into this cold. I didn't know what was going on. So I'm just doing this, not even thinking about those things. I am just using what I call Upsight Vision, and I'm seeing all these things. When the very beginning, when I started doing it, I'm watching it, I'm just sitting there looking at it. And again, remember, all of this is holograph, but I'm just flying through space, whatever you want to call it. The next thing I know, I'm on this ship with a dozen gray aliens who are in a circle, right? And as I look closer, they're in a circle, but they're over this square table that looks like it's clear, like a clear table. And it looks at first like it's empty. But as I get closer, I realize that they're remote viewing like a town in the United States, right? And as I look closer again, their eyes are important to this process for whatever reason. They're following these people, and the gray alien next to them picked up the person from their field of vision. So they needed to do it as a group somehow. Maybe it was like a chorus. It made it stronger. Whatever the case was, it was like a process. And I don't know if these beings are servers. I don't know if they're humanoids. I don't know if they're half, I don't know what they are, but half organic and half not. But what was wild about that is that I'm looking at them, I'm so curious about it. Then two of the gray aliens looked at me and they started coming towards me. And I don't even know what I look like in the holographic form, right? I don't know what they're actually seeing, but I was so scared I jumped out of it. Right. And that was my first time that I stumbled upon gray aliens doing something like you could think that we could learn from. Right. You talked about Crowley. Was like, wait, what if they're doing, if our little eyes can do, a tenth of what their big eyes can do, maybe there's something there. And again, obviously to me, it's because of my Upsight Vision. Like, I think they might be able to do something I can do such smaller. The size of their eyes is important for their physiology for whatever reason.
Mhm.
From my perspective and what I've seen, it's because they're broadcasting. It's almost like a satellite. They're broadcasting something a lot bigger. Now, I've said, and I write about this in certain blogs, that when I'm doing math, they used to show up and like I don't want to say tease, more like a nuisance, annoy me. They would take me off my task. And I often wondered why. I'd be anything I'm doing, they would annoy me. And I actually read this only a few years ago that meditators, people that are meditating, they would go to their yoga, and this is documented. And they say, listen, I'm meditating and I'm trying to empty my mind, but a gray alien keeps showing up. And
That's what was happening to me. That's what yeah, that was
yeah,
it.
and the teacher's like, just ignore
Yeah.
it. Just ignore it. It's like, wait a minute, maybe we should have a communication. Maybe we can communicate with these beings in a way, maybe regular people do, like all of us can directly. Now, that said, I don't communicate with grays. There's not a lot. There's one episode I write it. If you want to go to my Upsight Vision YouTube page, I have this 20-minute video about how I communicate with non-human intelligence. It talks about a gray being in the room with me, right, and holding my head. It starts off like that. But that I don't have a lot of interaction with these beings, and I don't know why. Some people are starseeds. Some people can tell you everything they say. That's not the case for me, and I think that's by design. I think my guide, my God, my spiritual counselor wants me to do other things, not listen to what they have to say. They want to maybe don't show me, teach me. You know what I mean? That's maybe, I think that's kind of part of I don't think it is what's happening with me.
Yeah, man. I'll leave you with this, with the eyes and beholding. There's practices that do that to create your reality, to look at something. And, then I shared about the dreams when I was a kid, allowing that stuff in and then experiencing it, being tormented in the eyes to create or to project or to move. The ancients looked at the sun as the eye of God, this huge eyeball. that is watching over humanity, or maybe even creating humanity, giving us life. And we
Yeah,
don't exist without that eye watching us.
that's a
But
fact.
it's very, very interesting because I do think this is all of this is multidimensional. It's not, it
Yeah.
doesn't just work for one realm. It's applicable for all of them.
Yeah, and every character in my book, Jesus Goes to Hollywood, it's a subtitle of Memoir of Madness. I name it after the sun because the sun is a big part of my journey. Nova, Sol. So just so you know, I feel that the sun is definitely, for whatever reason, obviously connected to God. You can't have humanity without the sun. But yeah, I hear that loud and clear. So anyway, listen, I gotta jump. This has been so amazing, Derek. I think maybe we can do something. You're like an hour and a half from me. If you have a retreat, I could show up. We could have some
Yeah.
fun. I don't know when that. I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, you're in Clearwater, or
No, I'm in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Oh, okay, nice. Heck yeah. Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
right up the road, man.
Sounds good. Yeah, we just passed through there at our last retreat. But for
Yeah,
sure, brother, hey, yeah, don't be a stranger. Thanks for coming on.
yeah. Thank you.
Um,
This was a pleasure.
yeah, you got my email. I'll give you my number if you want to. We could practice some stuff, some dream stuff, some number stuff, whatever it is. So add me to the list of people that you need to practice some of this stuff that
I
we're
will. I will.
exploring.
And I got a lot out of this today, Derek, which was great. Thank you. All
Likewise,
right,
bro.
buddy.
We'll have to
I'm
do it
out.
again. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Tom, Matt, ladies and gentlemen, make sure y'all check out his other work and his interviews. And all of them bring something beautiful to the table. And I was essentially asking questions that I genuinely had from listening to his other interviews and the work that he's put out there. So I know a lot of you have similar questions, and I'm trying to ask those questions for you, and for me, and for me. People talk about seeking truth. I get this question or comment a lot from a lot of Christians who are like condescending. You call yourself the truth seeker. Jesus is the truth. If you knew Jesus, you would find the truth and you wouldn't have to seek it. And I was like, well, no, I found the truth and I'm still seeking it every day. This is what it is, because once you ask a question, your question is answered only by another question. We read the scriptures. That's exactly how Jesus taught. That's how exactly how he answered somebody's questions, by asking them a question to denote that the answer was already within them and they knew it to begin with. They just had to dig. So I think this podcast and our experiences, we're here digging. We're here asking deeper questions, and this show represents people who aren't afraid to ask those questions, even when you've been told that you're going to be laughed at, ridiculed, demonized, ostracized, whatever, you know, fine. I'm still asking the questions, and now we're getting answers. So, man, keep doing what you guys are doing. Keep showing up. Everybody has a piece of the puzzle. Um, I found myself having to apologize a lot after interviewing certain people just because I still have questions. Like I can ask good questions, but I'm good at talking. I'm good at sharing because it's genuine, and I want to share from a place of knowing that the person, you can tell when the person is a student as well. And quite frankly, as I open up this talk, that's all I want to listen to. That's all I want to learn from. I don't want to learn from a know-it-all. I don't want to learn from somebody who claims to have it all figured out and closes off every other possibility. And that's what we were taught to do, to read one book, to have one experience, and then to discount everybody else's experiences. And that's not the case. That's not the truth. But I get excited sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to. And I wanted to share with him and had genuine questions. And I've always said that still makes the best podcast, makes the best episodes when I'm genuinely hungry about the information and I genuinely want to know. I can't tell you how many times I've done podcasts or have been sent a list of questions to ask the person from their publicist or something like that. And it's just kind of robotic. You can make it seem engaging or whatever, but when you really want to know, when it's got me by the edge of my seat, because I'm a student, we all are, and we're always learning. So sometimes I find myself apologizing for talking or whatever, but man, I want to know. I want to know. So I'm asking questions for you. Yeah. I have people in mind I'm asking questions for, but also for myself. So when you find like-minded people that sometimes it feels like like who can I talk to about this stuff? Who can I talk to? I know I can talk to you guys. You guys are experiencing a lot of this stuff too. And that's what makes it fun. And that's what lets us know that we're not alone. And that people can write you off, people can ostracize you, but there's none of you who are going to give up friends or family members or whatever in this life who write you off or call you names or whatever, that you're not going to get 100-fold in return, who are a part of this world within a world, if you will, the kingdom that is at hand, that we're experiencing, that we're able to see, and sometimes, just sometimes, able to record it and catch it on video. So good. Man, thank y'all for hanging out with me. If you're not a member of our online community or the Seer School, definitely check it out, www.seer.school. It is our community. It is our training. It's our, we do 2 sessions a week, Thursday nights, Sunday mornings, hangouts, doing this, but with a lot more people. It's really fun. You'll find out very quick that you're not alone. And the implications that has, I've taken for granted in the past with that phrase. You're not alone, man. You're not alone. It's so powerful to finally know and to feel that you are valued, your information, your piece of the puzzle, what you've experienced, what you have to say, what you have to offer. We are building community online and locally as well, doing these retreats and gatherings to create a place, a community where you're not just simply tolerated, that you're valued. And so I always say this, go to where, not like, don't go to the place or to the church or whatever where you feel like you're tolerated. Go to the place where you feel like you're appreciated. And knowing that I needed that and I still need that, what else is there to do but to see the vision of it and then create it? That's what we're doing. And I really think at the end of the day, that's what this podcast was about today. It was about that. Seeing a vision, seeing it through, no matter how big, no matter how far out, and then creating it, finding ways to bring it into your reality and not just do it once, but to keep doing it. Thank y'all for hanging out. Check out Seer School, the TruthSeekah podcast, truthseekah.com. Go check it out. Love you guys. We'll do it again. Peace.